Welcome to The Story. I'm David Molko in for Pat Doris, and tonight we're going to jump right into our big story. The place with all the high rises and parks, it hasn't been quite the same over the last few years, downtown Portland. Now, we can talk downswings and upswings, but when it comes to figuring out if and when downtown Portland has recovered, how do we measure that? When will we actually know recovery is really happening? I mean, maybe it's happening as we speak here. Okay, you could take the personal approach, go out and take a look around for yourself, maybe go out to eat, go shopping, see a show. For a lot of people, that is the only metric that matters. If you don't have a good experience coming downtown, then you're less likely to come back. You can also check out news coverage. We have talked about businesses and organizations that have moved away from downtown and the central city. But you can also look at coverage we've done of summer festivals and so on. Thousands of people packing downtown and the waterfront for events and concerts, some staying overnight, some going out to dinner. Now, you might say that's all a bit limiting because those are just snapshots. So let's zoom way out and take a look at the data. How many feet are actually on the ground downtown at any given moment? We're going to do a little bit of that tonight. We've reported before on a study from the University of California, Berkeley and the University of Toronto. They looked at the number of mobile phones in a city's downtown area at a specific time, and they compared it with that same time period before the pandemic, so back in 2019. Now, when we first reported on this study last year, Portland was number 60 out of 62 cities. Yeah, not good. The researchers said downtown Portland had only recovered about 41% of the activity that it had in 2019. Well, here's the thing. Those numbers have updated, and according to the University of Toronto, downtown Portland's situation has not gotten better. In fact, they say it's gotten worse. I mean, there was nearly nowhere to go, but Portland somehow managed to fall a spot to number 61, with only 37% of the visitors it had back in 2019, and just one step ahead of the last spot, which is held by San Francisco. Really tough company. Okay, well, there is the cold, hard data. You really can't argue with it. Or maybe you can. How can the data show downtown is getting worse, at least by that metric, when so many people are starting to come back for events, for restaurants, and shows? So what do? You dig deeper. And our colleagues at the Oregonian did just that this past weekend, publishing downtown Portland's recovery better than advertised. So they took a look at the University of Toronto study and they realized something. The study's definition of downtown Portland is pretty narrow. The Toronto study only included the areas between the Hawthorne and Burnside bridges and only went as far west as Southwest Broadway. So that captures Pioneer Courthouse Square, Pioneer Place, but it's missing spots like the Art Museum, the Keller, Powell's Books, and so on. In fact, there aren't really any big attractions, so to speak, in that area aside from the square and the waterfront. So what do? Well, the Portland Metro Chamber, that is the new name for the Portland Business Alliance, did their own downtown recovery study, looking at a much broader area from Old Town down to Portland State and then out to about I-405. They say, according to their data, which also counted cell phones here, downtown Portland is actually on the upswing.
The slow and steady progress that has occurred on two very distinct fronts, which is first off, visitors, people that want to come to our festivals, eat in restaurants, visit our stores. That has slowly but surely been creeping up and is nearly 70% recovered. So that is a good story. That's the sort of recovery momentum you want to see. And just most recently, as of July this year, we saw 2.4 million folks in total come into the district, which is a great number, not where we were in 2019. And so we're seeing that steady improvement, and that's what you want to know. And then secondly, we also really look granularly at the employees, and you can distinguish them because, employees sit in office buildings most of the day. And what we have seen recently is something very encouraging, which is that number is now more than 50% recovered. So we were really challenged, I think, towards the end of last year. The momentum has started to swing, and we're seeing positive growth in both those who are coming to sort of play and shop and have fun at our festivals, and also too the lifeblood of the downtown, which are the workers that come into these office buildings. We're starting to see them come back in, and that to me is going to be the bellwether of our recovery.
The momentum has started to swing. Hone pointed to that full slate of events this summer in downtown that each brought out thousands of people over the course of days or weeks, like the Waterfront Blues Festival, the Rose Festival, Pride, and of course, live concerts in Portland's living room.
Boy, Portland showed up. And this is Waterfront Blues Festival all the way to Pioneer Square. This is the Portland we all remembered, where we're celebrating, we're gathering, we're listening to live music. This last weekend, we just had a paint off in downtown Portland. I mean, the things that really make us who we are, and this is what people know about us. It's our eclectic gatherings and funky experiences that you can really tap into. And I think you saw the summer festival season just absolutely crush it this year.
Yeah, each and every one of us can play a part in that. But you know there's going to be a but here. He says there's still a long way to go. We can all see that. Hone is now part of the governor's downtown task force. He says he is optimistic that so many different people are working together to improve downtown.
What is important to understand about the Toronto study and about our data is that it isn't as bad as we have been told it is, but it's also not what it should be. And public safety, cleanliness, livability issues, the challenges that we see with chemical addiction, drugs on our street, public safety concerns, they're real and they cannot be ignored. And it is important that we address them.
A little glass half full, a little glass half empty there. All right, we want to hear from you now. What does recovery mean to you when it comes to downtown Portland? When will you be ready to come back? Or are you already back? Let us know. Send an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail. I know the team loves listening to them. That number is 503-226-5090. And sticking with our downtown theme now, the team at The Story has followed Governor Kotek's downtown Portland task force very closely since she announced its creation. And one thing that stands out to both us here at KGW, along with members of the media at other organizations, is this.
The governor said the group will spend the next 2 months studying problems and coming up with specific steps to improve things here. Interestingly, the media were kept out of the discussions so that people there could talk freely about the issues.
I love when Pat makes a cameo in his own show. Okay, that is right. The meetings themselves are closed to the media and the public, with some on the task force willing to do interviews after said meetings. It's a seeming lack of transparency that caught the eye of our media partners over at the Portland Business Journal. We think a recent article of theirs is worth your time. All right, Jonathan Bach is the Business Journal's real estate and finance reporter, and the fact that Kotek's meetings are closed to the public got him taking those thoughts a little bit further in the form of, is it legal? Well, that's an interesting question, and Jonathan's findings are part of this article that you can find now on the Business Journal's website. The group was called together, of course, by Governor Kotek, and as we've said, it's basically a who's who of state politics and business. It includes 3 members of Congress, some state reps, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson. Yeah, you get the idea. The list here goes on and on. But as the Portland Business Journal puts it, quote, residents who want to hear unfiltered some of Portland's most powerful people hash out the urban core's most consequential problems are out of luck. Right. So the question is, why? Well, an expert on government law tells the Business Journal that public meeting laws apply to governing bodies of a public body. The Multnomah County Commission, for example, they are a public body that governs affairs in the county, so their meetings are public. Now, a spokesperson for Governor Kotek says that does not apply to the downtown task force. Here is Elizabeth Shepard to the Business Journal, quote, the task force was not created by statute or other equivalent official government action. It will not make recommendations to or decisions for a government entity. The task force is neither a public body nor a governing body under public meeting laws. All right, you may be thinking, wait, they're not making recommendations to a government entity, so won't Portland City Council get recommendations? Will the county? Well, not officially. The governor's task force will present recommendations at the annual Oregon Business Plan Leadership Summit. That's a thing. It's in December. It is not a government body. It is an economic development forum. Shepard said the co-chairs of the downtown task force will give media briefings after every meeting, so we can expect to hear from Governor Kotek and president of the Standard Insurance Group. His name is Dan McMillan. But if you or me wanted to show up and hear what's going on inside those meetings, yeah, chances are it's not going to happen. And it appears, yes, that it is legal. All right, though, you can bet we're going to press Kotek and McMillan after every single meeting to keep you updated on their progress and what they think needs to be done to revive downtown Portland. As we have said, and as we have seen in your feedback, we know you expect not only solutions here, but concrete actions. We'll see. All right, let's take a look at some of your thoughts on a new poll around Oregon's Measure 110. Again, that essentially legalized simple possession of hard drugs in the state. Pat brought you the update on Tuesday, and here are the biggest takeaways. The poll asked 1,000 registered voters in Oregon whether they would repeal 110 completely or leave it as is. You see the results. 56% of those polled with that question said enough is enough. Get rid of it. But let's peel it back a little more with another question. You ask a different question, of course, you get a different answer. Should parts of 110, should parts be repealed to bring back penalties for possession of small amounts of hard drugs, or should 110 be left alone? You see the results. 64%, nearly two-thirds, say consequences for hard drugs should return. So that is the backdrop, and much like those results showed, the majority of you, at least those of you who called and emailed us, there were a lot, are ready for 110 to be a distant memory.
I think Measure 110 needs to go. The decriminalization of drugs in our city and our state is completely disgusting. Walking and working in downtown as I do, and to see the people whacked out and totally out of it on the sidewalk, they need to be moved to camps where they can get humanitarian treatment. Measure 110 is an eyesore, a blemish on our reputation as Oregonians.
Appreciate the voicemail, Mort. We also got this message from John. I cannot wait for the opportunity to vote to repeal this tragically flawed law. I voted for it in good faith. The people were promised decriminalization paired with extensive drug treatment. Only half was delivered, and it's been a complete disaster. I will also support restoring all penalties for drug use, possession, and distribution, ideally increasing them. It's clear lenience in this regard and only means addicts, these are his words, will happily ruin our lives in addition to their own.
You know, 110 was a stupid idea, in my opinion, when it was written. Stupid idea to put on the ballot. Of course, I'm not a druggie. I don't do drugs. I work for a living, unfortunately. I don't depend on the government to give me money or give me drugs, free crack pipes or anything. So, yeah, 110 is horrible.
Thanks, Ben, for that. A viewer named Joe kept his comment short and sweet. I voted against it, and it's gone as I expected. The state and health authority didn't do their homework and were unprepared.
I am a firm believer that Measure 110 has created a lot of the problems that we have downtown and contributed to the homeless problem. It's time to stop it. It's time to move on, and it's time for the Oregon legislature to come to their senses.
All right, you certainly get the point here. Once again, there were a few of you, though, who think that 110 can still be effective. It may just need some fixing.
I voted for Measure 110. I'm a recovering meth addict, and I think that, and I know I could not get clean unless I physically wanted to. I was homeless on the streets of Roseburg. But my point is that you can't get these guys clean unless they want to get clean, so there's no point in charging them with crimes that are going to saddle them with more problems later on down the line when they want to get clean, they want to get a job. They can't get a decent job because nobody will hire them because they're felons. I don't know. I just feel that.
Thanks, Wes, for leaving that. Julie wrote in with a possible solution as well. I voted for 110 because drug felony convictions impact people for their entire life. However, there are alternatives, rather, to relieve those consequences short of decriminalization of hard drugs. For example, criminal records could be expunged if a person were to meet some sobriety benchmarks. I hope we can find a solution that doesn't keep people from thriving if they can get past their addiction. If you missed our segment Tuesday with a full breakdown of the poll results, you can find it right now on the KGW YouTube channel. In the meantime, keep your comments on Measure 110 coming. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave the team a voicemail. That number, of course, 503-226-5090. Well, up next on the story, it's an issue that you email us about all the time: graffiti. And if you've been noticing more unsightliness around Portland's interstates, well, you better get used to it. At least that is the message we're getting from the folks responsible for cleaning it up. So what happened and how do we get to what could be open season for tagging when the story returns. All right, let's talk about one of the most visible issues in and around Portland. Yes, tents and homeless campers are one, but graffiti is certainly another. It's an issue we've covered time and time again here on The Story, and you, turns out, are always asking for more. Earlier this month, Lindsay wrote to us, "I, for one, would appreciate coverage of the graffiti plague." Interesting word choice there, Lindsay. How can overpasses, bridges, and building tops be so elaborately covered without anyone seeming to notice what would appear to take hours, if not days, to complete? Good point. A viewer named Scott wondered about all the graffiti along the interstates through town. I-5 is a visible representation of Portland. It does not show our city in a good light. Hoping someone will get things cleaned up very soon. Well, Scott, sorry to be the bearer here, but you'll likely be waiting a while for the cleanup. ODOT says they don't have any money left over to prioritize graffiti removal. Instead, and perhaps rightly so, safety concerns like potholes and cracked roads are their main focus. So in light of that announcement this week, and because running out of money seems like a story we've heard before, let's answer the question, how did we get here? Right, the pandemic was tough for so many reasons, and as taggers laid it on thick, the Oregon legislature authorized a one-time boost of $1 million, one time for ODOT to clean up graffiti around town. Now, early last year, ODOT put more than that, total of $2 million toward contractors whose job it was to remove graffiti. But exactly 2 months ago today, June 30th, you know how the team here likes to be precise, that money ran out. And without extra funding, ODOT is basically putting graffiti on the back burner as they use their maintenance funds for things like sealing cracks in the pavement, repainting lines, and repairing lighting.
Now we are back into, that normal situation, at least as far as state highways go, the portion of the roads and bridges that ODOT is responsible for. Our maintenance crews still remove graffiti, but we don't have the capacity of that extra private contractor work that was being done for 2 years. If taggers continue at their current rate, then Portlanders will see more graffiti because we don't have that boost in capacity to remove it.
Well, hence the get used to it remark we made earlier. Now, House adds ODOT will always prioritize safety repairs over graffiti removal. But if the situation sounds kind of familiar, guess what? It is. Earlier this year, the city of Portland ran out of state money it draws on to remove homeless camps from ODOT property. The city burned through $2 million that was supposed to get them to the end of June this year, but the money ran out back in February. Those camp removals only resumed when Governor Kotek approved a $600,000 bailout to tide the city over into the next fiscal year. Right now, there is no indication that ODOT will get the same kind of bailout for graffiti removal. So let's say it one more time, barring community solutions or something we are not seeing here. Sadly, get used to it. Still to come on the story, we are heading into the KGW vault, and since back to school has begun, we looked specifically for old footage of back to school coverage. You're never going to guess what we found and when it's from. You won't want to miss it. It's up next on The Story. See you later, summer, because this week is back to school for many families in our region. And as adults, it can be fun to reflect on our own first day of school memories. Now, for some kids, the return to class offers a great opportunity to show off a brand new backpack or a haircut or style. So we thought it would be fun to head into the KGW vault to find an old story about back to school fashion to see what's changed and, of course, what hasn't. Guess what we found? A story from more than 30 years ago highlighting what was in back then. Here is reporter Tom Fuller from August of '91.
Customer assistance, cash wrap 5, please.
And so it begins again, the annual August rush to outfit the kids for school. And so does the perennial fight between what feels good on and what fits good in the budget.
Probably t-shirts and jeans like it always is. Doesn't change much from year to year. Right? Yep.
It's okay with you?
No.
So what's big this fall?
And they're called thermal heat sensitive t-shirts, and they change color with your body temperature.
Price? $15 to $20.
Very hot item. The beach pants, just elastic waist, elastic on the bottom. They run small, medium, large, extra large. $14.97. Easy to fit, easy wear.
And at $15, pretty easy on the budget too.
The little leggings are real popular for little girls. They love that spandex, real comfortable. It moves with you. This and the little overalls is very popular. This is a skirt. It also comes in the pant overall. Crested pocket is important on the pocket. They like that crested influence too.
Overall, the main influence for back to school seems to come again from down south.
California influence is important. Just loose, easy fit, bright colors.
And that's different from past fall seasons when earth tones were in. This little item is also quite popular this fall. It's influenced by the 60s with a big floral print, but has sheer fabric in the wrist and waist. And what are parents spending this fall?
I would say they're spending they're usually buying the child each like a couple new outfits, 2 or 3 new outfits, so probably $100 to $150 per child.
That's a little more than last year. This woman plans to spend over double that, though.
Well, we just go into a shop and it's okay, there you go. Find what you want. Then we get out the credit card.
Tom Fuller, News 8.
You know the thing that really caught my eye there? The carbon paper credit card thing. I mean, when's the last time we saw a run of that, right? I mean, the fashion one thing aside, those things come back. Those things, I think, are gone for good. That's it for the story this Wednesday. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is headed your way next. I'm back tonight at 11 with your headlines. You know what? If I don't see you then, have a great evening. I'm back with you here tomorrow. We have a few extra seconds here. Why don't we take a look outside? We're going to go east to west, starting in the Dalles. You know what we're looking out for tonight? The super moon, the super blue moon. I believe the super blue barley moon in Portland, rising at 8:11 in the east-southeast. It'll be bigger and it will be brighter. No, it's not going to be blue though. All right, everybody, have a great night.